The line at gate C-29 stretched like a lazy snake down the corridor. A familiar chaos of business travelers, restless toddlers, and tired flight attendants counting down the minutes until shift change. The loudspeaker buzzed overhead, announcing delays in a monotone that barely cut through the hum of rolling suitcases and overlapping phone calls. Marcus Livingston stood still at the back of the line, his carry-on resting at his feet, one hand tucked into the pocket of his dark jeans, the other gently holding his phone. He wore a slate-gray button-down and a discreet smartwatch. No logo, no flash, just clean, unassuming design, the way Marcus liked things. He wasn't trying to be seen. He never did. But he saw everything. Blue Jet Flight 1483 to San Francisco. Now boarding Group 1, said the gate agent over the mic. Marcus moved forward. He had Group 1, first class, premium boarding. His company paid for it. Hell, his company built the infrastructure that assigned these boarding groups in the first place. "Excuse me," he said politely to a man in a navy suit in front of him. "I think I'm next." The man looked down, then up again, surprised. "Oh, sure," he said, stepping aside. Marcus approached the counter and offered his boarding pass on his phone. The agent, a thin woman with tightly pinned blonde hair, barely looked up before speaking. "This is for first class only," she said flatly. "I know," Marcus replied, still holding out his phone. "Do you have your ID?" she asked, voice already tinged with something else, not suspicion, something colder. He handed it over without hesitation. She scanned the barcode, paused, then frowned. "This ticket doesn't look right," she said, tapping the screen a few times. "It's not showing your seat assignment." Marcus leaned in slightly. "It's 3A. I got the confirmation yesterday. Checked in this morning." The agent shook her head. "That's not what I'm seeing. You need to step aside while I resolve this." A second agent walked up. Younger, brown hair pulled in a ponytail. She glanced at Marcus, then at the older agent. "Is there a problem? I need to check. The system says he doesn't have a seat assigned." "First class," she added with a hint of disbelief. The second agent looked Marcus over. His worn laptop bag, the generic gray shirt, the quiet posture. "He's probably in economy and just scanned the wrong ticket," she said under her breath. "Not low enough." Marcus's jaw tensed. "Excuse me," he said calmly. "But I've been flying with Blue Jet for years. My ticket is valid. Please scan it again." The older woman sighed dramatically, tapped twice more on the screen, and muttered, "These third-party bookings always mess up the queue." Another agent walked by, overhearing. "Hey, are we having issues again with those Internetrix check-ins?" he asked. The blonde woman nodded. "Figures. Their API has been garbage for months." Marcus blinked. She didn't know who he was. None of them did. And that wasn't surprising. His face wasn't in any press releases. His name didn't appear on quarterly reports. He wasn't the kind of CEO who walked stages in sneakers and TED Talk smiles. He coded, managed, led quietly, and let his results speak louder than his photo ever could. The younger agent called for a supervisor. Minutes passed. The line behind Marcus grew restless. "I'm missing my connection," someone groaned. "Why is he still up there?" muttered a woman 2 spots back. "This is why people should know their place." Marcus turned slightly, catching her eye. She looked away. Finally, a tall man in a short-sleeve shirt and radio earpiece approached. "Sir," he said to Marcus with clipped politeness, "I'm going to have to ask you to step aside while we sort this out." "I'd be happy to." "Wait right here while you do," Marcus replied. "That way I don't lose my boarding spot. Again, I'm in seat 3A. "I understand," the supervisor said, not looking at the phone Marcus held out. But we need to keep the line moving. Please step to the side. Marcus didn't move. I helped design the system that books these flights, he said, low and even. I can tell you the problem isn't in the ticket. It's in the way your internal check reconciles bookings with group status when the system auto-updates upgrades. The supervisor frowned. Sir, we don't have time for. Marcus Levston, Marcus said louder now. Founder and CEO of Internetrix. There was a pause. The agents looked at each other. The name didn't register, or if it did, it didn't matter. You still need to move, Mr. Levston, the blonde agent said coolly. We don't make exceptions here. He laughed, soft and bitter. Oh, I know. One of the agents grabbed a walkie-talkie. We've got a situation at C-29. Passenger refusing to comply with boarding procedure. Marcus slowly picked up his bag. I'll wait at the back, he said. I wouldn't want to delay anyone. He walked away under the glares of 30 strangers. Not a single one offered him the benefit of doubt. 20 minutes later, as the jet bridge filled with tired passengers and the agents returned to their routine, a soft chime echoed from the terminal monitors. Then a flicker. Then a full blackout. The screens displaying flight statuses blinked gray, then filled with error codes. A murmur began to ripple through the terminal. Phones stopped syncing. QR codes failed. The Blue Jet app crashed. Ticket scanners froze. The supervisor rushed back to the gate. What the hell? The blonde agent stared at her screen. Systems down. All of it. Nationwide, someone shouted from the next gate. Every Blue Jet flight, gone. Nothing's working. In the middle of the chaos, sitting calmly near a window, Marcus Livingston tapped quietly on his keyboard. He wasn't angry. Not anymore. He was executing a script he wrote months ago, a script that was supposed to serve as a warning. Too bad warnings only work if someone's listening. The silence at the gate wasn't silence at all. It was the kind of eerie, pressurized hush that builds in the seconds after an explosion, the collective breath before panic sets in. The monitors remained blank. The kiosks at every Blue Jet counter flashed a red banner, "System error, please wait." Phones buzzed with push notifications, then died into stillness. At gate C-29, where moments earlier Marcus had been humiliated, the attendants whispered among themselves, jabbing at screens that refused to respond. Passengers began to gather, confused at first, then restless, then furious. A man in a sports coat slammed his phone against the side of a chair. What the hell do you mean my boarding pass isn't valid anymore? I just had it open 5 minutes ago. A woman clutching a diaper bag raised her voice. There's baby formula in that bag. On the plane. I need to board now. Another older gentleman approached the desk, veins pulsing in his neck. My mother's on life support in San Francisco. I have to be on this flight. The younger gate agent, Olivia, tried to keep calm. I'm so sorry. We're experiencing an outage across the Blue Jet system. It's national. The supervisor reappeared, radio in hand, sweat shining at his temple. Backup's not kicking in. It says they're working on it, but the root cause is still unknown. Behind them, Marcus sat, watching, calm, composed, and visible again. It was strange how quickly people turned on each other when systems failed. The woman who had muttered, "People should know their place," earlier was now loudly accusing another passenger of skipping the line. Two men nearly came to blows over an available power outlet. Somewhere in the background, a child was crying, and no one was comforting him. Marcus looked down at the laptop balanced on his knees. The terminal window on his screen ran clean and green. The script was executing as expected. Security buffers had frozen all outward network connections. Automated booking databases had entered infinite retry loops. The servers were responding but not acknowledging any queries. It wasn't just down. It was busy. Busy failing. Not permanently, just enough to grind things to a humiliating halt. He sipped his coffee. You wanted to ignore me. Now try ignoring this. 3 months earlier, Marcus had sat in a conference room at Blue Jet headquarters. The walls were all sleek glass, the kind meant to convey transparency and innovation. But behind the smiles and catered sandwiches, the air was thick with unspoken judgment. He had just finished presenting a full audit, system stress points, outdated security modules, a looming risk of bottlenecks during load spikes. This isn't hypothetical, he had warned. You're one holiday weekend away from a total lockup. Paul Chambers, Blue Jet's VP of Operations, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. We've never had that kind of failure before. That's exactly the point, Marcus replied. It only has to happen once. Diana Rusk, the COO, flipped through the printed report like it was a restaurant menu. And what's your suggested fix? We've proposed a tiered update, rolling across 3 quarters. It's scalable, efficient, and non-disruptive. And what's the cost? She asked, eyes not leaving the paper. Marcus gave her the number. She laughed. You're asking us to greenlight a 7-figure overhaul on a system that, according to our analytics, has a 99.8% uptime? No, Marcus had said. I'm asking you to prevent a failure that could cost you 10 times that, in lost revenue, damaged trust, and potential lawsuits. Paul Chambers smirked. Or we keep running stable and just look for a cheaper partner next year. That's when Marcus knew this wasn't about tech. It was never about tech. It was about control. About appearances. About keeping certain people in their place. A week later, he learned that all emails he'd sent regarding system vulnerabilities had been quietly rerouted, then deleted, from Blue Jet servers. Miscommunication, someone said. They didn't fire Internetrix. Not right away. They just made sure Marcus stopped being invited to the meetings. Back in Dallas, Marcus stood up, stretched slowly, and walked toward the windows overlooking the tarmac. Planes sat still on the runway. No movement. No takeoffs. The Blue Jet logo on their tails shone like stubborn promises. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory. A woman answered. Ellie, he said. You seeing this? On the other end, Ellie Carson, CTO at Internetrix and Marcus's closest friend, responded without greeting. I was going to call you. You pulled it? I warned them, he said. Yeah, but Marcus, this is national. TSA, FAA. People are going to start asking real questions. I'm counting on it. She was quiet for a moment. Then you have a kill switch, right? He nodded. It's still reversible. For now. You want me to alert the compliance team? Not yet. Let the outage breathe. Ellie sighed. You know if they find out it was you. They won't, Marcus said flatly. Not unless I want them to. By late morning, Connor Blue Jet meltdown was trending across every major platform. News networks picked up the story. Angry passengers live-streamed from terminals in Atlanta, Chicago, LAX. Anchors speculated on cyber attacks. Homeland Security got involved. Inside the airport, Marcus walked slowly through the gate area as a Blue Jet manager tried to calm a crowd of shouting customers. We apologize for the inconvenience, but the issue is being addressed. Please do not. Addressed how? One man shouted. You left my wife and daughter sitting on the plane for an hour with no AC. Someone else yelled, how does a whole airline go dark? What kind of amateurs are running your tech? Marcus stopped walking. He turned, and for the first time that day, someone recognized him. A young black employee, probably in his 20s, wearing a ground crew vest, stared at him with a mix of confusion and awe. "You're Marcus Levston," the man said quietly. Marcus offered a small nod. The employee stepped closer. "I saw your talk last year at Black Tech United. You built Internetrix." "I had help," Marcus said. You did this?" the kid asked, voice just above a whisper. Marcus looked him in the eye. "I told them," he said, voice low. "I gave them every chance." Then he walked away, leaving the question unanswered. But maybe, just maybe, finally heard. By 3:42 p.m., Blue Jet Airlines had cancelled 264 flights. Another 390 were delayed. Passengers across 22 airports were stranded. The FAA issued a statement calling the disruption a critical operational event, stopping short of declaring a national emergency. Inside Terminal C at Dallas-Fort Worth, Marcus watched it unfold on the muted TV above a bar crowded with travelers. A CNN banner read, "Blue Jet Meltdown. Experts blame tech failure." While commentators speculated about foreign hackers, internal sabotage, or a systemic collapse of airline infrastructure, Marcus took a sip of club soda. He wasn't hiding. Not really. But he didn't need to announce himself, either. The system was doing exactly what it was designed to do, fail gracefully, until someone was ready to listen. His phone buzzed. Caller ID, unknown. He smiled and picked up. Marcus speaking. A pause. "Mr. Levston. This is Diana Rusk." There it was. Finally. Her voice was calm but brittle, like glass flexing before it snaps. "We need your assistance." "I'm sure you do. Our internal teams have traced the origin of the failure to your servers at Internetrix." He didn't answer. She cleared her throat. "We'd like to invite you to our incident command room at the Dallas terminal for a full review and restoration." "Invite?" he echoed. "You want to invite me to fix the thing you told me didn't need fixing?" Diana didn't bite. "The board is aware of the situation. We'll provide full cooperation, legal teams, NDAs, whatever's necessary." Marcus leaned forward, elbows on the table. "I gave you 3 months, he said, and 4 emails. There was a short silence. "You'll have full access," she said finally. "We need to move quickly. This is costing us millions by the hour." "I'll be there in 10 minutes, Marcus replied. "But I'm bringing someone with me." Before she could ask who, he hung up. Ellie met him at the security checkpoint, wearing a dark gray blazer and an Internetrix badge. Her expression was tight, but her eyes were alive with something between fury and vindication. "They're nervous," she said. "A reporter from ProPublica is already sniffing around." Marcus didn't flinch. "Let them. I brought the receipts." They passed through TSA with escorts, arriving at a private wing of the terminal behind a set of glass doors marked Blue Jet Command. Inside, chaos. Executives in polos shouted over one another. Dozens of monitors displayed flight grids, error messages, and system performance logs spiking into red. Paul Chambers stood at the center, sweat bleeding through the armpits of his button-down. He looked up and saw Marcus. His face froze. "I thought," Paul started. "You thought I'd be too quiet to notice," Marcus interrupted. Diana stepped forward. Her hair, once perfectly composed, had started to fray. "Marcus, thank you for coming." Ellie crossed her arms. "Cut the performance. You didn't ask, you begged." A silence fell. No one moved. Marcus walked slowly to the main table and placed a USB drive on the glass. "Here's what I'm offering," he said. "A temporary patch to stabilize the servers, restart synchronization, and reactivate outbound booking. No permanent fixes, just enough to stop the bleeding." Paul snorted. "You expect us to just trust that?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. The real question is why you didn't trust me before. Ellie turned to the room. Before you listen to another word out of Paul's mouth, you all need to see this. She pulled out a tablet and tapped through folders until an internal log popped onto the screen. System admin records, timestamped, authenticated. This is your mail server activity log from the week of Marcus' audit, she said. Specifically from your backup email cache, which your team never scrubbed. She turned it toward the room. Marcus' 4 emails, warning about the precise failure that happened today, were received, flagged, then manually deleted by Paul Chambers. Murmurs erupted. Paul went pale. That's completely. Don't, Marcus said, voice low but razor sharp. Don't lie. Not in front of these people. Diana glanced at Paul, then slowly stepped back from him. One of the tech consultants leaned in toward her. If this gets out. Oh, it will, Marcus said. I've already scheduled a release to a private outlet with everything we found. Unless you agree to my terms. Right now. Paul looked like he might faint. Diana's voice returned, but softer. What terms? Marcus stood still, completely composed. A full public statement acknowledging the oversight, the mishandling of my reports, and the behavior at DFW earlier today. All of it. We can't, Paul started again. You can, Marcus said. And you will. Or the system stays dark. Ellie added, and before you ask, yes, we followed all laws. The trigger scripts activated within our licensed code. You didn't breach contract because we never broke it. Diana was quiet. Then you want an apology? No, Marcus said. I want accountability. And a reckoning. By 6:17 p.m., a press release appeared on BlueJet's website. We at BlueJet Airlines acknowledge a critical failure in our response to technical audits provided by Intermetrics, our trusted partner. In light of recent events, we are working closely with Mr. Marcus Livingston to restore systems and ensure that no employee or partner is ever ignored, dismissed, or disrespected in the way he was. We apologize to our passengers and to Mr. Levston for this failure. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. 15 minutes later, Marcus entered a secured workstation and plugged in the drive. He typed for less than a minute, hit enter. Across the country, systems blinked back to life. Boarding passes reloaded. Flights resumed. Check-in lines moved. Airport sighed in collective relief. He sat back in the chair. Ellie leaned beside him. You could have burned them to the ground, she said. Marcus smiled faintly. Burning things is easy. Making them change, that's harder. Later that night, as Marcus left the terminal, the same young ground crew worker from earlier appeared beside him. Sir. Marcus turned. Some of us saw what happened at the gate. I just wanted to say thank you, for not letting it slide. Marcus gave a quiet nod. Most people, the kid added, they just swallow it. Or walk away, Marcus said. But silence doesn't fix systems. The young man offered his hand. Marcus shook it. Behind them, a plane lifted off, finally headed west. The next morning, Marcus woke to 118 unread messages. Some were from journalists. Others from CEOs, old colleagues, even complete strangers. But most were from people he'd never met, gate agents, junior engineers, college students in STEM programs, all with some version of the same message. I saw what happened. Thank you for standing up. Thank you for not letting them get away with it. Marcus scrolled through them slowly, still in his hotel robe, a cup of black coffee in hand. The room was quiet except for the occasional beep of notifications, each one a reminder of how far the story had traveled in a matter of hours. The ProPublica article had dropped just before dawn. Erased warnings, how a black CEO predicted BlueJet's crash, and was ignored. The article was meticulous, a timeline of events, technical evidence, quotes from the audit reports, testimonies from employees, even footage from the terminal gate captured by a passenger, showing Marcus being dismissed and humiliated. BlueJet's apology now read hollow in comparison. And the internet didn't forget. #RespectLevston trended for most of the day. A well-known tech podcaster tweeted, "Marcus Levston didn't bring a company to its knees. He showed us it was already on its knees. We just weren't looking." By noon, BlueJet stock had dipped 11%. The board held a press conference stating that Paul Chambers had been placed on administrative leave and that an external ethics committee would review executive conduct over the past 18 months. The phrase, "external ethics committee," made Ellie laugh when she read it. "Please," she said over speakerphone. "That's corporate for, we got caught and we hope the noise dies down in 2 weeks." Marcus didn't disagree. But he wasn't interested in revenge anymore. That part was done. Now, he wanted to make the silence matter. He flew out of Dallas that afternoon, not on BlueJet, of course. A representative from Southwest Airlines had reached out personally, offering a complimentary seat. But Marcus declined the favor. He booked a regular ticket in economy. He needed the quiet. In the row beside him, 2 passengers discussed the outage. "Man, that whole BlueJet thing was wild," one of them said. "He really shut the whole thing down himself." "Apparently," the other replied. "I mean, good for him, honestly. They didn't know." Marcus was sitting 1 row ahead, earbuds in, but volume off. He didn't need their recognition. Just the space to reflect. Back in San Francisco, Intermetrics was buzzing. The office had never experienced this level of public attention before. Startups and major corporations alike were flooding the inbox with partnership inquiries. A prominent VC firm even offered to buy out Intermetrics entirely. With Marcus still at the helm, he declined the offer. "We don't need their money," he told Ellie in their Monday morning meeting. "What we need is to stay accountable to the thing we actually built." "You mean the code?" "I mean the standard." Still, change had momentum now. BlueJet formally rehired Intermetrics under a new contract that included ethics clauses, diversity reporting, and full operational autonomy for system alerts. A clause named the Levston Protocol was added to the agreement, a safeguard requiring executive-level acknowledgement of any flagged vulnerabilities or risk reports. If ignored, the system would automatically escalate to the FAA and an external auditor. It wasn't justice. But it was infrastructure for it. And that was something. One afternoon, Marcus gave a quiet talk at a local university. No press. No stage. Just 30 students from a computer science seminar, most of them first generation. Most of them still wondering if they'd ever have a place in the tech world that seemed so tightly gated. He told them the full story. The warnings. The silence. The humiliation. The code. "How do you stay calm?" one of the students asked. "When no one listens?" Marcus smiled, then paused. "You don't always stay calm," he said. "You get angry. But if you're lucky, you learn to use that anger like a scalpel, not a grenade." A girl in the back raised her hand. "Do you regret what you did?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "I regret what they made necessary." 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside BlueJet's headquarters, invited for the first time as a keynote speaker. The event was internal. No press. No live stream. Just the new CEO, a group of engineers, HR staff, and the remaining board members seated in silence. When Marcus walked on stage, no one clapped. But no one looked away either. He didn't open with the system crash. He didn't start with Paul, or Diana, or the emails that were deleted. He started with his mother. "She cleaned planes," he said. "When I was a kid. For this airline. Night shifts. Double shifts. She used to bring me those little peanut bags they'd throw away after flights. I grew up knowing the scent of jet fuel before I ever knew what it meant. He paused. I built a company that helped you grow faster, operate smoother, reach farther. And you couldn't recognize the face of the man who held your foundation together. Not even when he was standing in front of you holding his boarding pass. Silence. I didn't crash your system. I just let you see how fragile it really was. A beat passed. Then, quietly, one of the engineers stood. Then another. Then a third. It wasn't applause. But it was acknowledgement. And Marcus had learned, painfully, how rare and powerful that could be. That night, back in his apartment, he sat at his desk in the dark, looking over a single line of code. His contingency script, still embedded, still dormant inside the BlueJet infrastructure. He could delete it. That was part of the plan all along. But instead, he added a comment line just above the trigger. // if they forget again, remind them. He hit save, closed the terminal, and for the first time in a long time, logged off. 2 months passed. The media storm eventually quieted. Other scandals. New headlines. And the infinite churn of the news cycle pulled attention elsewhere. But not everyone forgot. The name Marcus Levston had found its way into business school case studies, corporate HR manuals, and keynote panels across the country. Not as a cautionary tale, but as a reminder. A proof that silence doesn't mean absence. That systems fail when people in power stop listening. In one such panel hosted by a major tech conference in Austin, Ellie Carson stood on stage as a featured guest. The topic was invisible architects. When the brains behind the code aren't at the table, she said. She told the story not with rage but with precision. They didn't see him, she said, because they were never looking for him. And that's how systems collapse, not with explosions, but with erasure. She didn't need to say Marcus's name. Everyone knew it. Marcus, for his part, had declined every speaking engagement after his BlueJet address. He didn't want to become a symbol. He wasn't interested in being the poster boy for diversity reform or digital protest. He just wanted to build. In peace. With integrity. And so he returned to his rhythm. Early mornings. Black coffee. Code reviews. The office at Intermetrics had grown. But his workspace remained the same. Minimalist. Efficient. Quietly intentional. Like the man himself. But there were changes. New hires. More interns. A full mentorship program named ECHCO was designed for students from underrepresented backgrounds in STEM. The idea wasn't his, it came from a junior engineer inspired by everything that happened. Marcus just approved the budget and showed up once a month to teach. He liked that better than interviews. One afternoon, he sat in a corner cafe in Oakland, sipping espresso and reviewing a project draft when a familiar voice interrupted. Mr. Levston. He looked up. It was the young ground crew worker from DFW, the one who'd recognized him the day of the collapse. Marcus smiled. You again? The young man grinned, a little embarrassed. Didn't expect you to remember. Of course I do. You listened when no one else did. The kid shifted his weight. I just wanted to say thank you. I applied to a systems admin apprenticeship at Intermetrics. After that, I didn't think I'd even get an interview. Marcus tilted his head. What's your name? Jared. Well, Jared, Marcus said, you're starting next Monday. Ellie signed off this morning. The kid's eyes widened. You're serious? Marcus just nodded and went back to his coffee. Jared lingered for a second. Can I ask you something? Sure. When you typed that code, when you shut everything down, were you scared? Marcus thought for a long moment. Then he said quietly, yes. But you did it anyway. I didn't do it to bring anyone down, Marcus said. I did it to hold up a mirror. And sometimes people only see the cracks when their reflection shatters. Across the country, Blue Jet wasn't the same airline anymore. The board restructured. Diana Rusk quietly resigned, though the press release called it a strategic transition. Paul Chambers disappeared from public view. Rumors said he took a consulting gig somewhere overseas. No one seemed eager to find out where. The company's new CEO, a woman named Renee Dawkins, was different. She'd spent 20 years in engineering and operations. She'd read every report Marcus had written. In her first week, she publicly acknowledged what had happened without corporate euphemisms. We failed to listen, she said. And when you stop listening, you stop learning. That's the first step toward collapse. She implemented mandatory bias training, hired external reviewers to audit internal communications and system oversight, created a permanent position for a systems accountability officer, and offered the job to Marcus. He turned it down, but he helped design the role. That was enough. One morning back in San Francisco, Marcus stood on the rooftop of Intermetrics watching the sun rise through the mist. Ellie joined him with 2 coffees, handing him one. They're calling it a landmark event now, she said. The Blue Jet outage, whole textbooks written about it, he sipped. That's what happens when people finally notice the iceberg, she smirked. You know, you could still do that TED Talk, just once. We could put you in sneakers. No thanks, he said. I'm more comfortable in silence. Ellie leaned against the railing beside him. You know what you did wasn't just a warning. He raised an eyebrow. It was a design choice, she said. You built a system that protected itself, from neglect, from arrogance, from people like Paul. It wasn't revenge. It was resilience. Marcus nodded slowly. Then maybe that's what we keep building. Later that day, he walked through the Intermetrics hallway past a wall now lined with framed photos, not of awards or patents, but of people, interns, engineers, contributors, every face visible. He paused by the last one. It was his mother smiling, dressed in her old Blue Jet janitorial uniform, holding a vacuum and standing beside a plane. Below it, a plaque read. You build from the ground. You stay grounded. And one day the system learns your name. He didn't stay long. He didn't need to. Outside, the world kept moving, messy, loud, and fast. Systems kept updating. Companies kept forgetting. But Marcus Levston never did. And somewhere, in a million lines of code across airports, servers, and terminals, a small message remained, unseen by most, unnoticed by many, but always there. If they forget again, remind them.